So you are able to see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So anyway, so last class, if you remember, right? So what we were discussing is, anyway, reliability, the methodology, and others have already been discussed previously. So what we were trying to do is, if the your performance function say, if it is known explicitly, like you have a closed form expression, like some PL by AE, whatever we discussed previously. So then you can do all the calculations, okay? But if the performance function is not known, say like implicitly known, how do we express this things, okay? And already I told you this is a very, the practical, the problem. See, like most of you may be doing, the in your structural models, you would have built in the finite elements, or maybe, some numerical methods you would have used, okay? So now, like you see, the displacement at this node or whatever, so you will not be doing any closed form equation, some FEM, something like that you would have been doing. So we don't have any closed form expressions for, this performance functions, say. So then how do we calculate the reliability was the question actually, okay? So now here the most important thing what we observed was in the calculation of your reliability indices, say, all the steps, whether it is explicit or implicit, say, the methodology is going to remain same, the same steps you are going to follow. But the most important thing, what was the most important difference between implicit and explicit? Which step is crucial? No. So any of you remember? So which is the
Partial
most
derivative.
Differentiation.
derivatives, okay? So because the calculation of reliability, you have to do the derivatives, okay? That's what in the step 4 or step Y it was there. Now, if it was in closed forms, you can directly calculate dou G by dou D or dou G by dou L directly you can do, but right now you can't do this one, okay? So that is what we said. So derivatives becomes a big, the issue itself. So how to address this? We have said several methods are there, but most 3 methods are there. One is Monte Carlo simulation, okay? So anyway, Monte Carlo simulation is a straightforward analysis. So you just generate numerically the random variables also. Like instead of doing one analysis, so you may have to do 10,000 analysis, and among these 10,000, how many of them have failed? You simply calculate probability of failure, and then you take that phi inverse of whatever PF, you will get the reliability index. So this is a straightforward method, the Monte Carlo also. But the time taken will be so much, 1 lakh or 2 lakh if the random variables are more, and if the failure probability is also very, very low, say, then you will have a lot of issues in the Monte Carlo simulation. Not only that one, see, Monte Carlo simulation means you anyway you have to run your finite element program 10,000 times. If if it have a multi-story building or a bridge, say, and one simulation itself takes 1 hour, say, so running for 1 lakh times, too much, the time consuming. That's a negative thing about Monte Carlo, okay? So other method what we said was intelligent way of doing the simulation was a response surface. This also I explained you in the last class. So response surface and approach is anyway essential like regression analysis only, but you do systematically, okay? So like you estimate g of x from simulation. So instead of doing like in Monte Carlo 1 lakh or 2 lakhs, the same, you run some simulations and then you fit some type of a function, maybe a polynomial or whatever. So then calculation of derivatives is very simple, okay? So there are several procedures are there how to do these expressions also. Like you see this example, we have seen a linear, you can fit a non-linear function, you can do all those issues. So this is a general method we have said, you go for a second order polynomial or maybe a cubic polynomial. So many methods are there, HDMR, high dimensional, modeling techniques, many are there. And then we have said 2 methods are there. If you remember, right, how to find out the unknowns. So there are, you can use our design of experiment. Like generally this is used in the statistics, how to do the experiments and others also. So there you have saturated design, where the number of unknowns and the number of equations, both of them are same. So if there are 10 unknowns, say, you have to do 10 simulations actual, okay? And then you fit, so that is done. So saturated design also, cross terms you can include, so how whether the cross terms are required, or central composite design also is there, where the number of equations will be more than number of constants. So if the number of constants are 7, say, you may run your simulations 100 times or 200 times. So when the number of equations are more than number of constants, so you have to do this regression analysis, okay? So some errors and other things will be there. So this is a straightforward method. and this was a procedure we told. So you first assume some center point, around which you have to do those, but to find out the constants, and then you calculate the derivatives, and then you do reliability, you find out the design point, and then you have to do it in iterative format actually. So this response surface method is widely used in reliability analysis. So there are many papers are there. So people have done this reliability of cantilever, the retaining walls, structures, many problems have been done by this response surface method. So they do the analysis many times, fit some type of a polynomial, and then they calculate this reliability analysis in a iterative format actually. So this is much efficient than your Monte Carlo simulation. Monte Carlo simulation, you may have to run your finite element program or whatever numerical program 1 lakh times. But in response surface method, you will run only maybe 100 times or 200 times. You fit a function, then you do the reliability calculations. And this is much more computationally, the efficient, compared to Monte Carlo simulation. Okay. So this is one way. Now another way is this finite difference method. So generally, whenever you see a derivative, say, so automatically Taylor series comes and finite difference technique comes naturally. Okay. So here in the finite difference method, as already we said, so if you have any derivative, say dg by dx, you have to calculate. Okay. So this, you can approximate this by, small delta z by delta x, where delta x tends to 0. So what we try to do is a very straightforward method. This this finite difference. So what we try to do is so if I have my performance function, say some g of x1, x2, x3. So these are all my random variables basically. Okay, this is my performance function. So what to do is now we have to calculate these expressions. Dou z by dou x1, then dou z by dou x2. So all these derivatives have to be calculated. Okay, then this one. So now this I can't calculate because I don't have any explicit the functional form of g or other issues are there. So here the idea is like this actually, very simple. So the first thing what to do is you first calculate, say first you have to compute it is straightforward. So you first compute the mean value basically. So that is z naught. So g of x1 naught, x2 naught, like this up to xn naught. So these are all the mean values basically. So the random variable, its mean value. So you dump all the mean values. So you can compute z naught also. Now the next thing to find out a derivative, what to do is you change only x1. So now you change x1 to x1 dot plus delta x1. So you give a small change in x1, and this is very small number. Okay, something like a perturbation we can say. Okay, it is basically a perturbation. All other variables say. So all other variables, that is x2 to xn say. So they remain same. They are all constant actual. So now you compute the new z1 value. So the new value of z say, okay, as z1. So which is g x1 dot plus the delta x1. So x2. So these are all remaining same actually. Okay. So only thing x1 we have changed. So now you find out, you see, delta z basically. So which is z naught minus z1 minus z naught. So this you find out, and then now you estimate, you see, you calculate dz by dx1. So this will give you the derivative of z with respect to x1 itself. So now this way you repeat for all the other random variables. So other random variables, keeping other constants actually. Okay, so these steps have to be repeated. So now if you want to find out x2 say, so all other things will be kept constant. So x2 you will give a small perturbation, and then you calculate the difference in the z value, and then you find out delta z by delta x2. So like this you can find out our numbers itself. So this is a very simple and straightforward the method, that is a finite difference method. So like for example, if I have this simple problem, say that is a bar problem. Okay, so this is P. So let us say my performance function. So g r comma s, it is r minus s, where r is f of y and s is p by a. Okay, so this is my performance function. So f of y minus p by a. So this is my performance function. Anyway, for this problem, things are available in closed form. Now, if it is not available, so now just to illustrate this finite difference method, we can say. So now let us say the p, a, and y say the fy. So they are all random variables basically. Okay. So the mean value, so for p is some 30, kips, some number is said, then 1 inch square or whatever, then this is a 36 say ksi, and then we have the coefficient of variation also. Okay, so let us say 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and let us say all are normal distributions actually. So this has been given basically. So now this, of course, no need to do finite difference. You can directly do the reliability analysis. But if you want to use a finite difference method, say, so now what is the first step? So the first step, what you have to do? So what is the first step? Now, if you want to calculate the derivatives, so three random variables are there. So three random variables means I have to find out the derivatives. Say dou g by dou p. I have to find out dou g by dou a, and then I have to find out dou g by dou f of y. So these three derivatives have to be estimated actually, because these are required in my reliability, that Haushofer-Lind that calculations basically. Okay. Now to find out this derivatives, say what is a dou g by dou p? Can you see here what is a dou g by dou p?
Minus 1 by
1 by, anyway, you know the answer, but if I want to calculate by finite difference method, say what we have to do, what is the first step?
we use the mean values and find out the g.
So what are the
Then
mean
we
values? For mean values are 31 and then 36 ksi. So the mean value has to be estimated. So that is g naught basically. Okay. So this g naught has to be calculated here. So this is all the mean values you have to use. 36 minus p by a. So 30 by 1. So this turns out to be 6. So this is the mean value basically. Now to find out the derivative with respect to p say, so dou g by dou p. So now to find out this derivative, so what you have to do now? What is that you have to do? Simple thing is, now we are, our g is a basically function of f of y and then p and then a. So three random variables are there. Now to find out derivative with respect to p say, so now fy and a have to be kept constant. You slightly perturb this p value. So that is how it has to be calculated basically. So now we will give a small perturbation actually. So delta p is some 0.1. I will give a small perturbation. So now my g1 will be 36. So these things are going to remain same. So the p I have given a small perturbation. So 30.1 by 1. So this turns out to be 5.9 actually. So all other things I have kept constant. So this is same, this is same, only p we have given a small perturbation actually. So now I will calculate a delta g, so which is the g1 minus g naught here. So this turns out to be 0.1 or whatever you say this number has. So now I will find out my derivative set. So dou g by dou p. So this is so this is approximated as del g by delta of this p. So now this turns out to be, so dou g is minus 0.1 and del p is 0.1. So this is a perturbation. So this turns out to be, you see, minus 1. So this is the derivative basically. Okay. So now this way, we can calculate our, the derivatives actually. Now to find out derivatives with respect to area actually. So dou g by dou a. So this I want to calculate, say. So now I will find out g1. So now what is that we have to do if I want to calculate any derivative? What we have to do in this fundamental expression? So now here to find out to p, we have given a perturbation to load actual. So now if you want to give to find out derivative with respect to area, say, what is that you have to do?
to give a perturbation to area.
Area. Fantastic. Okay. So now generally how much perturbation you have to give actually? Okay. So any guideline is there? So like we have taken delta p as 0.1 basically. Okay. So that is how the perturbation we have given. So generally what's the guideline? the guideline is how much it has to be, you know, they say something like, you know, 1/10, okay, of the mean value or something like that. They say the guideline basically 1/10 to some 1/15 or whatever, you know. So like that 1/10 means a 0.1. That is general guideline, you see, we have. Okay. So now let us, we also give what is the, this is a 1 you know, inch square or whatever. Okay. So we give the perturbation is, you know, one whatever this was 0.01 we will give, because very small, because load it was, you know, the mean value was 30. So that's why we give 30.1. Okay. But here it is a 1 only is the value. Okay. So you have to be choose and use it carefully. So 1.01. So this turns out to be 6.297. So now you compute a delta G, say. So this turns out to be G1 minus G0. So this is a point, you know, 297. So this is a delta G. So now our derivative is a dou G by dou A. Okay. So which you are approximating as del G by del A itself. So this turns out to be 29.7. So this is the, you know, the derivative with respect to area, and you have evaluated at the mean value itself. Now to compute, you know, Fy also, you can do the derivative also. So dou G by dou F of Y. Okay. So this one also you can easily calculate. So now you have to keep all other constants, say. So only this only has to be done. So now this value, say. So you have to give a small, you know, the perturbation actual. So let us say give 36.1 minus, you know, this is 30 by 1. Okay. So this is my number itself. And finally, say, so I will calculate, sorry, this is a G1. So this is my G1, and then finally you say dou G by dou F of Y. So this turns out to be almost 1 actually. Okay, so this is how, you know, you can calculate the derivatives also. So anyway, this problem is very simple problem. You can easily calculate, you know, you can verify actually whether it is correct or not. So like for example, say, tell me.
Sir, is there any significance regarding negative sign or positive sign?
No, significant means now this is negative only, no? There is no issue, right?
Okay, sir.
No, the derivative, see, like for example, this problem, what is dou G by dou P? See here, you see the closed form solution here. What is dou G by dou P is nothing but minus. This is right.
Yeah, minus 1 by A.
1 by A. What is mean value of A?
1.
1. You followed, no? So now mean value of A is 1. So what is the final answer? Closed form solution is?
Minus 1.
What is that we have got from finite difference?
Minus 1.
Same only, no? Now this is also, you can verify, there is nothing, no need to worry about the derivative. If it is negative means, you know, right, the slope is, you know, this side, or slope is that side actual. Now you can also find out this problem. What is dou G by dou A? See, dou G by dou A, we have got as 29.7, but you can easily calculate what is dou G by dou A here.
Minus P,
15, sir.
minus P by A square. P by A square.
P by A square will come. So, and P by A square, and you substitute the mean value. So P is 30. You followed. And A square is how much? So 1 is 1. So that automatically turns out to be, you know, 1 itself. Okay. So now, but the value here, how much we have got?
29.7.
So you can find out, and dou G by dou F of Y, some small error will be there. So dou G by dou F of Y. So what is the exact value?
1.
1. Now after our finite difference program also, how much we have got? It is exact, you followed it 1 itself. Okay, so this anyway, just to illustrate, you know, we have taken this problem. So this anyway, this problem not required, but in a complicated way you cannot find out this derivative. So this method helps actually. So this is finite difference. Simple, but the only guideline what you have to do is, what's the main guideline? How much you have to take that?
Perturbation.
So their guideline is just, you know, 1/10 of the mean value or something like that actual. Okay, so 1/10 of the mean value, or maybe 1/20. You can make it as small, and you can verify also, you know, how whether it is a converging. So you have to do a lot of tests itself. Okay, so this is how we can do by this finite difference. But only negative thing in this finite difference is so now you know, how many, you know, if you want to do this you know, in a single analysis, if there are 3 random variables so you may have to calculate each time this derivative, and others also will be there. So if there are more number of iterations, you know, in our reliability also, we have to do iterations, right, to find out, to have a convergence on beta and the design points. So every time you have to do this, the method itself. But this is a very straightforward and very easy method actually. This is a finite difference technique. Okay, and now this is one way. So this also is widely used, but generally anyway, in reliability, the most popular right now is response surface only. Okay, so this also finite difference is also used, but not that much widely used in reliability analysis. If you see old papers, they may use, but in the recent things, they go with response surface method or stochastic APM or something like that. Okay, so fine. So now the third one say that is the stochastic finite element. Okay, this is the one. This also is a very easy and straightforward. So this stochastic APM say, so this comes from perturbation method. So original name is perturbation only. Okay, so perturbation method, we say. So there are many perturbation methods. Based on that, the stochastic APM also, we will build up these issues actually. So perturbation method is essentially, so like as already I told you, right, in stochastic, in the finite elements, say, finally all the whatever, whether it is whatever thing, you will write everything in terms of like this only. Stiffness matrix, and you have that nodal forces or nodal vectors or whatever. So you assemble everything, you can write it in this type of form actually. And finally, you have to calculate your the derivatives basically. That dou g by the stiffness matrix will be somewhere inside. So finally, everything boils down to calculating the stiffness matrix with respect to the random variable. If the random variable is Young's modulus, say, so you may have to do dou k by dou e, or dou k by dou I, you follow it. All those derivatives have to be calculated only. So in FEM anyway, you can, and this you may have to do at elemental level, or maybe right, that at the structure level, element size, you will know the stiffness matrices. So this has to be calculated basically. So now this you can do it from this perturbation method. It's a very straightforward and is just nothing but the chain rule of differentiation actually. So it's any straightforward, okay. So there is nothing speciality about this method. So it's just a chain rule of differentiation you have to do. So like for example, say do or this, let us say this is my performance function, resistance, and then this S will be there. And the previous problem, say you would had three random variables, P, A, and then F of Y. The same previous problem if I see, say. Now we have to find out the derivatives actually. So dou g by dou p has to be found out. So my performance function is R and S. It is R minus S, or of course Fy minus P by A itself. Okay. So now I have to find out dou g by dou p. So I am writing in a generalized the format. So this derivative becomes, so dou g by, so P comes in where? So P comes in R or S actually.
Yes.
Yes, whatever you see, this comes into here. So S becomes a P by S. So this turns out to be right like this: dou G by dou S, dou S by dou P. Actually, the chain rule of differentiation, we use it. So what is dou G by dou S? Dou S by dou P is see dou S by dou P. What is dou S by dou P? S is
Minus 1 by
1 by A. What is dou G by dou S? Dou G by dou S. G is R minus S actual. Okay. So what is dou G by dou S?
minus 1.
Minus 1. So this is how the chain rule of differentiation comes. It's straightforward only. Now suppose if I want to calculate, so dou G by dou A. So this this comes in S. So we write dou G by dou S into dou S by dou A. The chain rule of differentiation basically. So this turns out to be anyway minus 1, and this derivative becomes minus P by A square. Okay. Now similarly, so dou G by dou F of Y, say. So this will be, now F of Y comes where? In S or R?
R.
And it comes in R. So do you have to write as dou G by dou R, dou R by dou F of Y. Okay, so this turns out to be 1 into 1. So this is how the derivatives have to be calculated. Let us say area, if it is a rectangular cross section, so some B into T if I write, and if I say B and T also are random variables, say. Now what happens to the derivatives? So A dou G by dou B I want to find out, say. So A is B times T. And let us say B is also random variable, T is also random variable. These are all random variables. What will be dou G by dou B? How do we calculate dou G by dou
Dou
B?
G by dou S into dou S by dou A and then
Ah.
dou A by dou B.
So this is a chain rule you have to do, dou G by dou S by dou A, and then you say dou A by dou B. So this chain rule has to, so now this becomes -1, dou S by dou A, this becomes P by A square, and dou A by dou B becomes T actually. So this is a derivative, you followed. So now dou G by dou T say. So this turns out to be dou G by dou S by dou A, then dou A by dou T actually. So this is what the chain rule we say, -1 P by the A square and this B. So this is how we can calculate the derivatives by this chain rule of differentiation basically. Okay, so this is what we call as the perturbation technique, or the classical perturbation techniques they say. Okay, so now if it is a non-linear say, so when the things are non-linearity, okay, so now we have to use iterative the fashion. So this method is iterative perturbation we say. Okay, so it's anyway straightforward only. These are all very the simple. So like that bar problem, if we see that same bar problem, say. We all know displacement is PL by this AE kind of thing, or dou U by dou P say. This is L by AE, or we can write this in a finite element format. So Ku is equal to F actual. So this is my finite element expression, and K is AE by L actual. Now suppose if it is so if you want to work it in a, if it is a non-linear say, so this if it include non-linearity also. So there is a non-linearity also. See, suppose here what's the non-linearity here? See, stiffness is also a function of L itself. Okay, so stiffness also is a function of L. So now your bar. So when the load is when you are applying the load say, so what is happening to the length of the bar? No. So when you keep on increasing the load, what happens to the length of the bar?
Increases.
No, it increases actually. So if it increases, say, what happens to stiffness?
Decreases.
It also, so what we are trying to say, stiffness also is changing basically with the load itself. So that's what we are calling this as the nonlinear kind of thing, because stiffness also continuously changing. So when the load is changing, generally we ignore these things, but if you want to include stiffness is also continuously changing here. Okay, so because L is change. Okay, with the load itself. So here the methodology you followed, right? So now we use this this for combination. So the F naught and U naught, unperturbed position we say. Okay, so we say K naught U naught is equal to the F naught, and then we write in terms of a perturbation equation, because stiffness is also changing, the U is also changing, F is also changing, say. So the equation becomes K naught plus delta times K, U naught plus delta times U naught plus delta times U is equal to F naught plus delta F actual. So this is the original the equation basically. So as you keep on increasing the load say, so deformation changes. When deformation is changing, length changes. So when length changes, stiffness matrix also changes. So this is the basic equation, okay, for a nonlinear kind of a problem itself. So now here, so this equation say we can split into two pieces actually. We can split into two equations. One equation is this K naught U naught is equal to F naught, and the other equation say is K naught into delta U plus delta K into U naught plus delta K into delta U is equal to delta F actually. So these are the two fundamental equations actually, okay, which you can derive from that original equation. We can split into two pieces, F naught and then delta F into two pieces basically. So now what we do, the second equation anyway is straightforward. Now if you see the first equation say, so generally in most of the problems in the first equation, what happens, this term delta K into delta U say. If you see all these terms carefully, so what is the third term, what does it indicate, or what is the speciality? What do we do generally?
The small value which can be ignored.
It can be ignored, but what is happening here, you are having changes in stiffness. It is like when you're having a Taylor series, say f of x plus h, these things something like second order we say. You followed it because two derivatives are there. So this generally, we ignore in our calculations. Okay. So k naught into delta u plus delta k into u naught is equal to delta, f itself. So this is how, we write our expressions also. But generally, the most of the cases, many problems, they ignore this one also. You followed. So if you want, you can include that term also, but you can verify. So this also we sometimes, ignore. So this sometimes you see it is written as, the delta of f itself. So the equations, we write it like this itself. So now my k naught say, so our k will be, so the stiffness matrix, so length of the new bar. So now you solve this equation, you will find out a delta u. Okay. So once a delta u is known, say, then you can calculate the new length of the bar is L naught plus delta u. Then my new k is basically ae by L plus L naught plus delta u. So this is by a new the stiffness matrix actually. So once the new stiffness matrix is there, so now we have to solve once again for okay, so you can solve once again for delta u, and then you have to do it in a iterative fashion until you see the things converge here itself. Okay, so to just illustrate this one, say, so let us take one axially the loaded bar which is given in the textbook now. So this loaded bar, say, so now area is some 1 inch square, the same thing. Okay, Young's modulus is 30 into 10 to the power of 6 psi, and then axial load, say, so it is 10,000 this is f. So 10,000 some lb, so this is applied on the bar. So now we have to do it in a this iterative fashion, and it is incorporating the change of stiffness with the deformation also. So now here the first step is, so you have to calculate the initial stiffness. So the initial stiffness will be k naught is equal to ae by L naught actually. That is unchanged or whatever we have, and L naught is 100 the inch. So these are the numbers basically. So this turns out to be a you substitute here. So 300 is 1,000. So this is the initial stiffness basically. So this is the initial stiffness of your bar itself. So once you have this k naught, say, so now you have to find out the deformation. So delta u. So this is a delta f by k naught. So delta f, that is 10,000 this one itself, and this 300 1,000 or whatever. So this turns out to be 0.0333333 like that. You see, this is the one actually. Now you find out the deformed length. L naught is equal to L is equal to L naught plus delta u. Okay, so this turns out to be 100 0.03333 this itself. Now once you have got this expression, say, so now you find out once again the new stiffness. So the new stiffness you calculate, and then once again you followed it, you have to repeat the entire system itself. Okay, so this is how we have to calculate basically. So now here so now here we can say like iterations, if you see the variables, say, so if we see these variables here and then the iteration, so we are having a k, a delta u, and then L. So if we take first iteration basically, so my first iteration it was 300 this one, and my delta u was 0.303333, and this L was 100.0333333. So this was my first iteration. Now in the second iterations, I have recalculated my stiffness basically. Okay, that is substituting this expression in my calculation. So this turns out to be 299,900.03333 we get. Now once again you calculate the deformation 0.3333, then 4444 like that it turns out to be. Then once again the new length 100.0333444 like that. So second iteration. Now the third iteration, say. So this becomes once again you have to do all the calculations 900, then 0.03333. 44448 something it turns out to be, then 100 points 0.3333444, almost it is converging here. Now this also 299,900 actually, almost everything remains same. Almost we have reached the convergence in the 4 iterations actually. So you can, once you have got converged, say, so now my dou u by dou f actually. Okay, so you can easily find out delta u by delta f also. So 0.033344 divided by 10,000. Okay, so this turns out to be 3.33444 into 10 to the power minus 6. So this is the derivative also. So this is what we call as a non-linearity. If there is a non-linearity, say, still you can find out the derivatives and you can do this iterative, the perturbation method itself. So this is also, widely used when you are having, this nonlinear formulations also. Okay, so there is one more formulation also, which is also like, they calculate in terms of residuals. Okay, that is a Diaz, and this paper is available online on probabilistic structural analysis. Okay, so this method is there. So they do it in iterative fashion also. So they define a residual vector. So the defined residual vector is R1 as, F1 minus K1 times U, then K into delta U1 is equal to R1, and then you see they update actually U plus delta U1, and then they redo this calculations also. So there are several methods are there to do this iterative perturbation when things are non-linear, or this methodology can be used, because the stiffness matrix is also changing with every iteration, and it also depends on, all the variables are changing, say. So this methodology can be used to do this perturbation, and then finally in the calculation of derivatives also. Okay, so now so this way we can calculate the derivatives and we can do. So now in the stochastic finite elements, you say, so we use this concept itself in our analysis. Okay, so the methodology is as follows. So stochastic FEM, say, it's very straightforward. So as already I told you, stochastic FEM, the most important thing is, you have to find out the derivatives, that's all. So in the stochastic FEM, anyway, FEM, all our equations are K is equal to F only. So finally, everywhere, you may have to do the derivatives with respect to the stiffness matrix only. So that is the only thing. So now let us say stochastic FEM based, how to do reliability analysis. Okay, so this is what you see we do. Now, as already I told you, the first step, say, okay, so you assemble, the global stiffness matrix. So the global stiffness matrix is there, right? So the global stiffness matrix K, and of course, you see the global, nodal load vector. So this is the first step. Okay, the vector, that is F actually. So now you already know, you solve for the displacements. So you solve for the displacements, you see U, okay, and you know the using the finite element equation. So our finite element equation is Ku is equal to F actually. Now here, we are doing static analysis only. Suppose if it is a dynamic analysis, so what will be my finite element equation? If it is a dynamic, see, for dynamics, what is the finite element equation, basic fundamental equation? Now, what is the finite element equation for dynamic problem? Suppose if this is a static analysis, if it is a dynamic analysis, so what happens? What extra things you have to include?
mu double dot plus Ku equal to F.
Mu double dot plus, you will have two things actually, plus Cu dot plus Ku is equal to F. This is our dynamic equation. Okay, if it is a static, means these two can be deleted. So finally it turns out to be K is equal to F only. So whatever methods we are discussing, so the methodology is applicable even for dynamics also. Okay, but anyway, right now we are doing a static one, which is very simple analysis. Okay, so now this is the first step. So K is equal to F itself. Now you, but as already I told you, that sometimes our performance functions, say, so we write sometimes performance functions, in terms of displacements, or sometimes, we also write performance functions in terms of stresses and, the strains also. Like stresses should not exceed this thing, or strain should not exceed this thing. So what we have to do is you have to find out the, the vector of desired, this vector, say, of desired response quantities. Okay, so stresses or whatever. So all of you know, right, in finite element, you know, right, that matrices, B matrix, so many things you would have studied actually. Okay, so from the displacements. So once you know the displacement, you can calculate stresses, strains, and all other things, you know, of the form. So we all of you know in the finite elements form. So that will be, you know, so the form will be, you know, something like this. So S is equal to, we say, some Q transpose, some matrices, everything will be in terms of matrices. That's S naught. Okay. So this Q transpose is the transformation matrix. So this is basically the transformation matrix, you know, relating, you know, the U and S. Okay, and S naught is basically the response vector. Some, if there is some initial stress or whatever is there, say. Okay, so you can, otherwise you can delete this S naught itself. So you can find out stresses or strains or whatever. So now the next step, say, is basically the performance function. The performance function. Okay, so this performance function is, you know, g of x. Say x are all the random variables are there. So you will be having resistance, and then you also will be having whatever, you know, the load. This also will be the demand and capacity. So where R is the resistance. Okay, variables. And S basically is the vector of response quantities. And X is basically all the random variables. Okay, so like Young's modulus or whatever, all the random variables you dump in this itself actually. Okay, now in our the reliability indices, you remember in the Haushofer-Lind reliability index, say what was the most important step whenever we had any random variables? So what did we do? In all our calculations, you remember what did we do? The original random variables will have their own mean value, their own standard deviation basically. Now what did we do? You remember? In Haushofer-Lind, that methodology. So we directly use this random variable X, or what did we do? You remember what we used to do in the reliability calculations?
We formulate the limit state function.
Limit state function is anyway that performance function only. But whether we were working with directly the random variables or what did we do? So like for example, these were the steps actually which we discussed basically. So now you know X and these are the original random variables. Okay. So what did we do? No. So what we are trying to do here? So we are not working with X actually. What is that we are working with?
Reduced variates.
Reduced variates basically. So here also when you're in stochastic FEM also, so this is a standard procedure, because once you do with reduced variates, no, so your origin becomes 0 and then it will be easy to calculate actually. Okay, and of course if it is a non-normal random variable also, what is the procedure we told, you remember? So this works for normal random variables, but if the random variable is not normal, say what did we tell, what methodology you will use? You remember we told that methodology, Rackwidge procedure or whatever. So what is that Rackwidge procedure? No. So this one only. What is that Rackwidge procedure? Suppose if it is they are not normal also, what is that we try to do?
Convert all the density function into equivalent normal.
So finally what we are doing is everything you are converting into equivalent normal only. So once you have done that one, so then reduced variates, is very easy to calculate. So this is the most important step actually. So here also in our stochastic FEM or any whatever method you are doing, say, so we don't work with X actual. Okay, so we work with the reduced variates. So so what we do is, so we do a transformation. So this is a transformation, say, of the original variables. So the original random variables X to equivalent, and if the random variables may be, correlated also. So sometimes, your Young's modulus, moment of inertia, breadth, they may be correlated also. So we have already said, right, if their random variables are highly correlated, say, we do, right, that eigenvalue, eigenvector analysis, and then we make all of them uncorrelated also. So that step is sort of equivalent, uncorrelated basically. So we remove all these things before you go into reliability analysis. You may have a correlations. The random variables may be non-Gaussian also. So what you have to do is non-Gaussian should be converted into equivalent Gaussian. Then if they are correlated, say you do eigenvalue, eigenvector previously we have defined, and then make them uncorrelated also. And then finally reduced, we have to make them into normal variables. So this is the step. Okay, so this is our step basically. So this you can write this as y is t of x itself. So if there are, so now we can write this as so y1. So if we are having two random variables x1 and x2, okay, so we calculate y1 and y2, just this transformation. If they are uncorrelated, so then it becomes very easy. X1 minus mu1 by the sigma 1n, and then x2 minus mu2 is by sigma 2n. So this n indicates this mu1 n or whatever. So this is equivalent normal n. So equivalent normal, the mean. Okay, mean, and of course this is equivalent normal standard deviation. So this is the most important step actually. So this you have to do in our calculations actually. But now once you have, so now your performance function, say previously we have written in terms of x. This is the original performance function. Now after this transformation, say, so my performance function will be written in terms of y. Okay. So or if I write in terms of, so this is my performance function. So now in our reliability calculations, say what is that you have to require? No. So you should know the performance function also. Apart from that, you also should calculate. Now, what else is required to calculate our, then reliability analysis? So what are the steps? If you see that Haushofer, Lin, all those methods is there, what is that we have to do? We have to calculate what? So performance function is done. Okay, so now you will assume the initial design point and then you will calculate. But what extra thing you have to calculate here? What is that extra? You have to calculate what is the most important step. You have to calculate what? What values are required?
Partial derivatives.
Excellent. The derivatives have to be calculated. So if you know how to calculate derivatives, then that's done. Okay, so you can do your reliability analysis. So this has to be calculated. That is delta g of y. So this derivative has to be calculated. But here originally the performance function is, so here you have to use our perturbation method itself. So dou g by dou y1. So this have to be calculated. Say so now you have transformed. See, your original performance function is in terms of x actually. Now x has been transformed to y itself. Okay, so now dou g by dou y1 if you want to calculate. So dou g by dou x1 multiplied by dou x1 by dou y1. So this is our the derivation actually followed the chain rule of differentiation we use. Now what is dou x1 by dou y1? Yeah. So what is this derivative? See this expression and tell me what is the derivative of dou x1 by dou y1. What is x1? So what is
sigma?
Sigma. So this turns out to be simply sigma 1 of n itself. Okay. So the chain rule has to be calculated. Now if the performance function, if I write generally in terms of r and then s, say, so my derivative will be so dou g by dou y1. So this will be, so my random variable can come even in the resistance or even it may come in the load also. Okay. So we write is dou g by dou r by dou x1 and then dou x1 by dou y1 plus dou g by dou s. Okay, so dou s by dou x1, then dou x1 by dou y1 actually. So you have to do like this. Suppose if the random variable doesn't come in R, so you can ignore this actually. Suppose sometimes these things may come in random variable may come in R also, it may come in S also. So then you may have to do this type of derivative calculations actually. So using the chain rules, we can find out all our numbers itself. Okay. So now let us see one quick the same axially loaded bar problem itself. Okay, the same problem, whatever we have discussed previously also. So now let us say it is in finite element or whatever, it is a single whatever this one. So now the nodal force is A. Okay, so the nodal force, that is P, then the limiting strain. So the limiting strain is the epsilon naught, and then the Young's modulus. Okay, so these are the three random variables, and my performance function say, so G R comma S has been taken as epsilon naught minus epsilon X. So this is a performance function. So performance function is we have written in terms of the strains itself. Okay, so this is our formulation basically. So now so these is my performance function. So now our random variables are epsilon naught, P, and then E. So this itself is my these are the three random variables itself. So now we have a vector here. So X is x1, x2, x3. So these are the vectors, so which we can write as P. So these are my vector of random variables. So now the first step is I have to transform them. I have to do this Y. So reduced normal variates y1, y2, then is y3. So this have to be calculated, and then we also have to calculate the derivatives also. So this is dou g by dou y1, and then dou g by dou y2, and then dou g by dou y3. So this has to be derivatives have to be calculated actually for this problem. So now we will calculate. So dou g by dou y1 say. Okay. So we will write this as dou g by dou r. So now y1. So y1 is what is y1? So y1 is anyway related to epsilon naught only. Now epsilon naught occurs where? So if I write this as r minus s, epsilon naught is coming in r or in s? R only. So now this expression, if you want to use, so what happens in this expression? This entire term goes away because it is not appearing in the S itself. So only the first term only will be there. Okay. So dou g by we have written that the generalized case. So dou r by dou x1, and then dou x1 by dou y1. Okay. So this turns out to be dou g by dou epsilon naught. This is 1 dou r by dou x1, and this is sigma 1 normal actual. So this is also 1 and then sigma 1 of normal. So this is a derivative with respect to y1. Now dou g by dou y2 say. So y2 comes where? So y2 is p. P will come where, in r or s? So this is a strain in our this one. Okay, this is a limiting strain. So P comes in
S.
Yes only. So now in this equation say, so this will not be there actually. Okay, it is straightforward. We have written the general expression. So dou g by dou s by dou x2, and dou x2 by dou y2. So this is our chain rule actually. So this turns out to be dou g by dou epsilon x. Okay, so dou epsilon x by dou p, and then sigma 2 of n. So this anyway minus 1. So dou epsilon x by dou p, and then sigma 2 of n. So this is a derivative. Now dou g by dou y3, straightforward actually. So your Young's modulus also comes only in S. So dou s by dou x3, and then dou x3 by dou y3. So this also turns out to be dou g by dou epsilon x, and then dou epsilon x by dou e, that is Young's modulus, and then dou x3 by dou y3. Sorry, this will be sigma 3 anyway. You can mean. So sigma 3 of n. So this turns out to be minus 1 dou epsilon x by dou e, and then sigma 3 of n. So these are the derivatives, and epsilon x you can easily find out. What is the expression for epsilon x? How do we calculate epsilon x? How to find out a strain in the beam actually? In the finite element sense. So what is the strain here? See, what is the strain in this bar problem? If L is the length and this one say, what is the strain? Displacement, right? PL by AE. So what will be the strain?
P by AE.
P by A. It's straightforward only, but if you are calculating in a finite element format, say, So how do you write, how to find out strains, you know, right? How do you calculate if you are calculating in a finite element? This is your final equation. Ku is equal to F actual. So what is the stiffness matrix? So if you take this as a two node, the element or whatever, say one node here, one node here, and then all the, you would have studied in finite elements also. The matrix turns out to be AE by L 0, 0, AE by L, okay, multiplied by U1, U2 is equal to load, and other node there is no load. So this is our finite element equation. So solve this equation, say you will get U1 and then U2, say. So this turns out to be PL by AE and then 0. So these are the displacement matrix. Now to find out the strain matrix, say. So epsilon x anyway, U1 minus U2 by L. So you can write in a nice, 1 by L minus 1 by L. Okay. So U1 and then U2. So you can easily calculate. I'm just writing in a finite element matrix. So the Q vector will be 1 by L minus 1 by L. Okay, the transformation matrix. Okay, so this is just to following our procedure. As already I told you, right, this is our finite element equation. K is equal to F, and this matrix is S is equal to Q transpose into U, right? So these are the how to calculate stresses and strains. If you write in a general finite element program, say we write like this. Okay, stresses also you can write like this. So this is my strain matrix. So Q, we write in a Q transpose into that U or whatever you see, we write. And of course, initial strain anyway is 0, say. So by using this method, so epsilon x turns out to be P by AE actually. So this is how we get. Very straightforward only, but in a finite element, you have to do all the steps, and these steps are same for any problem itself. So now since epsilon x is anyway known, no, so you can calculate this derivative also, dou epsilon x by dou p and dou epsilon x by dou e also. So this also can be calculated here. So dou g by dou y2, say. So this turns out to be 1 dou epsilon x by dou p and then sigma 2 of n, say. Epsilon x anyway p by ae, you can easily find out. So minus 1 by ae and then sigma 2 of n. Now similarly, say dou g by dou y3. Okay, so we had minus 1 dou epsilon x by dou e and then sigma 3 of n, say. So this turns out to be p by ae square, so sigma 3 of n actual. So these are the derivatives basically. Okay, so this way we can calculate in a finite, let's say what we are calling as a stochastic FEM basically. So you do all these calculations, you find out the derivatives, and then once you know the derivatives and once you know the basic your performance functions, say, so then you can do your Haushofer-Lind, you can do it that iterative, you choose initial design point, and then you can repeat your analysis itself. So this just to illustrate for a simple problem, say how to calculate this performance function as well as this derivatives of the performance function by using this chain rule actual of differentiation. Now there are more variables are there, say, so multiple random variables. Okay, so there are multiple random variables are there. So many are there, not just 3 or 4 or whatever, just we are generalizing. Okay, so this is the first step. Y is equal to a plus bx actually. X are the random variables. So you transform all of them into reduced, the variates. So A matrix is, minus mu1 n by sigma 1 of n, and then minus mu2 n by, you see, sigma 2 of n. So like this, you have this A matrix, and then B matrix is basically 1 by sigma 1 of n, 0, 0, 0, 0, like that it goes. Next one will be 1 by sigma 2 of n, 0, 0, 0, 0, like this it goes. So 0, 0, 1 by sigma 3 of n, like that, you will have this B matrix also. And my X matrix will be x1, x2, x3, like this, it keeps on going actually. So this is a transformation. Generally, when you want to do many random variables are there, you do like this. Now this derivative has to be found out. So delta g of y. Okay, so here we have written only for 2 variables only. Okay, so how to calculate it was very simple. But if there are more random variables, say, okay, so this calculations, slightly, if you are writing a computer program, so if you write in a nice format, it becomes very easy. So this, if I want to write, so I am writing this as B inverse into T delta G of X R comma S actually. Okay, so this is how we write our expressions also. What is this? 160. Yes. Now, so this way, you know, we write all our expressions also. Okay. So now we have to find out all these, you know, now as already I told you, your random variables may come sometimes in R matrix, or they may come in time in S also, or you can have both these combinations also. So this expression, we also can write this as dou G of Y say B inverse transpose J of R delta G of R, okay, R comma S plus J of S. So this is a Jacobian matrix. We have dou GS R comma S actually. So we write like this also. So these are all the derivatives. So delta, you know, G of X R comma S, then delta say R comma S, and then delta GR B comma sorry R comma S, and then this delta G of S R comma S say. These are all the gradient vectors. So these are the gradient vectors, you know, of the performance functions. Say. Functions now with respect to, you know, X, R, and then S actually. And JR is anyway dou R by dou X, and JS is anyway is dou S by dou X. So this, you know, we also call them as Jacobian matrix. Okay, so this is just a terminology, you know, to differentiate between all these derivatives. So this we call them as a Jacobian matrix, and these are anyway the original, you know, this itself actually. So now these calculations, you know, so dou S by, you know, dou Xj. Okay, so this you can write this this expression. So now as already we told, S will have, you know, so what is the expression for S? We already said, right? S means, you know, so you can have, you can write in terms of stresses, or you can write in terms of strains, or you can write in terms of displacements also. So this is my S matrix actually. Okay, so you can write the performance function in terms of stresses or strains or displacements or whatever. So this is my S matrix. So from this I have to find out my derivatives also. So dou S by dou Xj, so dou Q transpose by using dou Xj U plus Q transpose. So this is my U, Q transpose into dou U by dou Xj plus dou S naught say by dou Xj. So these are the derivatives actually. So now here, you know, to calculate some of the derivatives while writing computer programs, some advantages are there. UV is anyway K inverse into F, because, you know, KU is equal to F we can write. So from this expression, so you can also write this expression as, so now dou U by dou Xj. So this also you have to compute actually, because it comes in this expression. So this turns out to be K inverse into dou F by dou Xj plus, you know, dou K inverse by dou Xj into F actually. So the derivatives will be there, you know. So how to calculate dou K inverse say? Inverse by dou Xj, you know. So this you can do some, there are several tricks are there how to calculate this derivatives. Dou K by dou Xj, K inverse, and then, you know, so if you substitute and you have to do some small you know, algebra here. So dou U by dou Xj, you can write this as a K inverse into dou F by dou Xj minus K inverse into dou K by dou Xj into U. So many calculations are there, and finally dou S by dou Xj say. This turns out to be dou Q transpose by dou Xj U plus Q transpose if you substitute everything. So dou K by dou Xj minus dou K by dou Xj multiplied by U plus dou S naught say by dou Xj. So this is expression for the derivative actually with respect to S. Okay. So now here what we do is, you know, we compute dou S by dou Xj from this big, you know, the equation say. So once you know this derivatives, so you substitute in this expression itself. So dou G, so this anyway with resistance, this is very easy. This delta G R is there, right? So this you can easily calculate here. So substitute in this expression, say, you can find out our the derivative also. This is just a general, the formulation basically. So if you want to do whether it is a frame element or a beam element or whatever things you are trying to do, say, so this generalized formulation can be used to find out the derivatives also. Okay. So now once you know how to calculate the derivatives, say, so now once you know all the derivatives are calculated, so now you can use our forum method. That's the first order reliability method, and then you see that Haushofer, Lind or whatever, and you can calculate the reliability indices. Move forward. So this is how we calculate all the numbers actually. Okay, so by this perturbation, the chain rule of differentiation we can calculate, and then we will do it actually. So to implement this stochastic FEM, say, so that you should know the stiffness matrix, the load vector, then the Q, that is a transformation, that is to obtain stresses or strains or whatever this one, and yes not. So this is the first step. You have to find out all these numbers itself. Now, but apart from in the ordinary FEM, you use this itself and close your analysis. But since it is a stochastic FEM, say, because your random variables are uncertain, you have to find out the derivative. So this also have to be calculated, dou x by dou xj, then dou f by dou xj. So this you have to write some small subroutine or whatever. Okay, dou q by dou xj, and then dou s naught by dou xj. So this also have to be, this information is also required actually for to do this reliability analysis also. So you may have to write a small subroutine. So this you can write at the elemental level, and then you can assemble it, and you can come up to the global level also. So this thing, if you can attach, say, then your reliability analysis becomes very, very simple actually. Okay. And this is much more the efficient method, the stochastic FEMs, compared to Monte Carlo and other methods. You can do the things very easy. So Monte Carlo means no need to write this subroutine. You can, but you have to run your program 10,000 or maybe 1 lakh times. But here, if you can write a small subroutine, say, of calculating the derivatives, then the reliability analysis becomes very fast, and it is a computationally the efficient method basically. Okay. So I will stop here. I will continue. We will continue in our next class. On this Friday, we will solve one, the example problems, and then we will discuss some of these things. Okay. So fine. So if there are any questions, you can ask.